Good afternoon, everyone. There's still 1 minute to go before we should head off this webinar this afternoon. So we'll give the registered people one more minute here to come on to this webinar before we kick this off. Okay, welcome everyone. It's 4 o'clock, at least Central European time here in Sweden. I'm Jesper Larsson. I'm here in Malmö at the InRiver headquarters. I would like to welcome you very much to our joint webinar together with Vaimo today. We've named it Redefining B2B Commerce for 2020 and Beyond. And the two of us presenting today are myself, Jesper Larsson. I'm partner director with InRiver. And we got Tommy.
Hey guys, my name is Tommy Essenholm. I'm working with Vaimo at the PIM Excellence Center in Ängelholm, Sweden, and here to partner up with Jesper Larsson and to talk about you some of the findings that we have for the studies.
Yeah, and we perform two different surveys independent from each other and releasing these reports on the service during last year. We as good partners with several joint projects, PIM projects, teamed up and to share with you some of our insights we got from these reports here today. To give you a short background on the two reports, I can start to giving you a short background on the InRiver report. We pursued with this report to have a better understanding of the B2B markets, and particularly what were their challenges in managing content for B2B commerce. We did a survey with a lot of plus 1,000 participants in the different markets of the USA, UK, DACH, Nordics, Belgium, and the Netherlands in 2019 in September. We did include members from different industries, both manufacturing, food, beverage, medical devices, construction, etc. So it should give you a quite good response rate from that are valid from many different industries within B2B. And something about the Vaimo study.
Yeah, from a Vaimo perspective, of course, it's super interesting for us to understand the B2B world and what they are facing. With all that experience that we have within the B2C space, what can we bring in to the B2B market in form of experience and also the good and the bad things that we have accomplished on the B2C market. How can we transfer that when the new wave now is coming for B2B companies to go digital and make an online presence even better than it is. So from our perspective, it's really crucial to understand that. And what we have found in short is that it doesn't differ that much, actually. So we are pretty confident that we can support the B2B industry going forward. And the survey was conducted with by telephone interviews from 100 CEOs, CTOs, CDOs, and so on and so forth. And we asked them what they were facing when kind of planning the new digital strategy. And some of the insights are the slides that we're going to talk about, what we found out there and how it's relevant. And in the end, try to sum it up, things that you can think of and what we have seen. And we'll also mix that with some of the experience of what we've seen, because this is an ongoing process. We know now that a lot of B2B companies are, if they haven't already started their digital journey. And we think that we have a lot to contribute to that discussion.
Yeah, so the whole idea of this webinar is actually then to match the outcomes of these two studies and findings that we did in these studies, but from different perspectives. InRiver comes very much from the content perspective, and Vaimo has its specialty in the commerce perspective. So the survey has been focused on these topics. So our idea is now to present some of the key findings from each of the different studies, and also then to look into, okay, what does this actually mean for the total overall solution for you customers that needs to have, most of you needs to have managed both the product content and the commerce part of your overall solution. First, a few words about our companies. InRiver is a pure player within the game. We're a best of breed PIM solution expert. We develop our PIM solution and we deliver it as a SaaS solution since 2 years back. We have some plus 500 clients and 1,500 brands in plus 20 markets across the globe. And we work with partners such as Vaimo here that delivers our PIM solution together with other complementing solutions, like for example here with the case of Vaimo, that we deliver InRiver PIM together with Magento, for example. So there's a lot more to find. We have a lot more resources online as well on inriver.com, where we have best success cases and many other studies within certain industries, etc. So please find more information about the InRiver there. A few words about Vaimo.
Yes, Vaimo was founded back in 2008 with the intention to go after the interesting market of e-commerce back then. It's only like 11 or 12 years ago. It's pretty fascinating to think of the journey. Back then it was founded by 3 people. Today we are over 500 people within the company. We got 21 offices in 15 countries globally. We started out with Magento, and we are today the #1 global elite partner for Magento, which means that we have been there a long time. We have made a lot of implementations. We are also, since 2018, an InRiver Platinum partner. And we have also an internal PIM Excellence Center, which means that there's a group involved in most of the PIM cases going on in Vaimo world. And this has served us pretty well, because we see a lot of different integrations, different industries, and we can kind of thrive on that excellence that this center has created. On top of that, we are divided into strategy, design, development, and service, which means that we are a full service partner with a strategy team to help you outline digital strategies and to make sense of what to do next, basically, and to take the right steps. We've got an excellent design team who is very focused on conversion rates to make it easy to get that buying experience. And of course, a lot of development is being done both on the Magento platform, but also on the other different platforms, such as InRiver, where we add code base to whatever is there. And we are also running services for major clients where it's really crucial that uptime is stable. Especially we see that during Black Friday and such. It's really important that we have our own people to control everything from start to finish, basically. You can see some of the key clients that we handle today. Heineken is a major brand, of course. Most of you probably know them. Helly Hansen, Jaguar, and Bauhaus is some of the other from other segments, so to speak. So that's the short story. And of course, also as Jesper mentioned, for Vaimo, there's on Vaimo.com you will find a lot of information, the work that we've done, and more information on who we are and what we do. So please go there if you feel the need to know more about Vaimo. All right.
Good. So let's get going with some of the findings from the reports. You know, we mentioned that we work with both B2B and B2B clients, and we do have seen that, you know, a huge uptake in the business to business area over the years. So, but these results are very much from the results of the actual survey. Where we posted questions about, you know, what were the challenges that we're actually taking on. And going digital for B2B companies means going global, because it means that you don't stay within the border as soon as you're visible for SEO service, etc. It's also then important to recognize that going global also means that you typically have a need for the customer to have local versions, meaning localization in terms of translation of the languages to actually work outside the different markets. So even if you don't have the strategy to go into Greece, go into Argentina this year, you know, setting your products out there in the digital channels mean that you will have inbound requests coming in from different markets, and all of a sudden you're facing competitors that comes from other markets. You will need to work with translations, and you will need to maybe work with other partners in other markets. So that's globalization, and that increased competition in the market is a fact as soon as you move into the digitalization space. Managing these different markets may also mean that you need to put your products into different contexts. Think about the case like NIBE, for example, where it sells heating pumps that can work as coolers or as heating pumps. And that means whenever they go global and put their products out there, they might need different content, different language, different images for different markets with different needs. On top of this, apart from the localization with the different contents you know, that needs to be localized, you also need to realize that you're moving from a sort of an ad hoc process into a process where it continuous work's needed. You need to update your content continuously to be ahead of the competition and look out what your customers are searching for. You know, typically before it was very much governed the process about launching a catalog, launching a new product with a new product sheet. As you created the product sheet and you made a launch. After that, the product information was very much constant and maybe updated with different versionings of the product. But today it's very much a continuous work to keep the content updated. And that's another challenge that the customers really experience in working towards different channels and different markets. The second finding here was that some of the customers here actually had quite limited success in their product launches because they had limitations of the technology. Quite a few of them mentioned that they had limitations in old legacy CMS and e-commerce platforms, so it wasn't really possible to launch new products and display the right images, the right videos, etc., the content that they could create, but they couldn't really distribute it in an efficient way to the market. They also found it very hard to actually make the product launches in a timely manner with the digital channels. Before, it maybe was okay to actually spend a couple of months on a product launch because no one knew and when to expect the catalog or the product sheet to be launched. Now, as soon as the product is launched in one channel, everyone expects to be known and everyone expects to have that information if they are resellers, agents, or direct business-to-business customers. And that means that we have to plan the launches a lot more carefully. And then we should really think about what does a 6-month launch actually means to you. If your launches are delayed with 6 months before you actually reach your entire market, what is the value of that? The time to market is extremely important, and a lot of them a lot of the respondents here are arguing that has to be changed because they can see that the competition is picking up a lot faster. So if they cannot get their market in all channels in a fast and timely manner, they will soon lose out to their competition. And maybe there are even some competitors copying your product. In the business to business, we also have to realize that a huge chunk of the market is continuous buyers that comes back and buy the same products over and over again. But what if you want to find and inspire the new markets and the new potential customers in new markets? That's where you need to think and adopt the word merchandising. Merchandising comes from retail, where it's very much on how to display the product in the right content. For example, if you want to sell the shirt, you need to put it on a doll with the right trousers and the right shoes complementing the shirt. But in this context, if you're selling a crane, for example, you need a vehicle to put the crane on top of that, and you need to put it into the right context of the buyer. So you have to think about the merchandising, the content, and how to display your product in the very best way of the product of your buyers. And with that comes the challenge that how to scale this enrichment process, because all of a sudden you might need to have different images from different environments, and you need to scale really your work to create a lot of content for different channels. With this, we have seen some of our existing clients that might be a solution where they're actually starting to use a lot of the new AI tools for automatic translation, rendering technologies to create images with different environments, etc. So think about the time to market, think about merchandising for the different segments that you address, and think about how you can really scale the enrichment and have an efficient enrichment process to overcome these challenges that the customers today say they have, that they can actually not launch customers within a certain time, within a short enough time frame, and also that they have limitations on what they can display to the different channels. The third finding here is that the companies that actually did quite a bit of investments in information that that had a tremendous ROI on the information created. We could see that all, plus 50% of the respondents actually had problems with dissatisfied customers where they were outdated and inconsistent product information across different channels. That leads and that generates a huge ROI on how you can make savings in reduced returns, for example. So putting these together, adding the right information, the right details across the channels, that will have a huge impact on reduced returns. If we then look at the number of companies that actually struggle to ensure products content that meets the standards and required formats, because that's a big thing within the B2B. There are many different industry standards that needs to be met. There are legal requirements in local markets, especially markets like the food market, where you need to have allergen information, nutrition facts, for example, very detailed and very organized, both for the industry databases and for the big buyers like the big groceries. This is, of course, an important fact to have in place, and you need to automate this process, because this is not really what drives your increased sales, but you need to lower your costs to manage this. What could drive your sales instead is actually then to enable more decision makers across different channels. So if you could provide information across different channels and actually support the new buying process of your customers. For example, if you're selling electronic goods and if you have electricians out there in the market, why don't you provide them with the right applications for them, whether they are online or offline, to be able to browse and view your products and be able to order them as soon as they get online. These are kinds of examples that would help these decision makers that are out there in the field to actually to have the updated and adequate information to make the purchases online instead. So the inconsistency, the lack of the details, and the cost and the struggle to manage of the legal requirements are really driving forces that if you get your data together, you will soon have a huge impact in a consistent information and getting the details in place so you can reduce returns and enable your customers to buy across different channels. So these are some of the findings from a content perspective in our survey. Now we'll move over to the more commerce perspective at Vaimo and the key findings from their survey. Tommy, take it away here.
Yeah, thanks, Jesper. Very interesting to hear, and it rings well with what we're seeing on the field as well. So really important there to get your data in order. I would like to start to say, if there is any questions for either me or Jesper, you're free to type that in the chat window, and we'll try to handle that in the end of the webinar here. So just feel free if there's something that you need to comment or want to ask us. So just type it in, and we'll try to take it from the top. All right, so one of the first things that is interesting for us, we asked what features do you have on your website today? And these are B2B companies. And what we can see here is that 89% actually claims that they have a list of their products or their inventory on the page today. But if we move down a little bit, we see that there is only 13% that actually has the ability to sell products online. this is of course really, really interesting. And these 89%, I know by experience, is not necessarily products as you are used to view them in a B2C space. Because here we've seen examples on just Excel sheets being uploaded, or PDFs being uploaded, which doesn't really give any information more than the maybe the SKU number. And of course that makes sense to recurring buyers that bought your product for a long time, that knows the specs and everything around the product from other information sources. But we have to realize that the people who are actually looking at this data now are going to be soon enough millennials and even the Generation Z, the kids that were born when internet was born, basically. And to them, a list, a downloadable list, would simply not do. They are used to doing their online shopping. They're used to fetching all the information online in the way that they want, whenever they want, and make themselves understand the product. And with most of the B2B that are still behind, we're lacking that. So there's no way you would progress, you would say. If you can keep it as status quo, that would be a very good thing. So this tells us that it's a lot of work to be done within the B2B industry when it comes to displaying the products and to get them sellable online. And even if it's not to a consumer, you should consider your customers or your potential customers as being the consumers of your products, basically. So would you like to attract new distributors, for example, or even new customers? Because they will also, the end customer will look at your web page. And if that is just a downloadable Excel sheet with the ERP data on it, I'm pretty sure that will affect your conversion negatively. There are, as Jesper mentioned, also the languages. 61% state that they have information in several languages. What we can see there when we implement that to a language layer on the Magento is that there are more than often holes in this, which you never really, I wouldn't say care about it, but it hasn't been the top priority. I've seen examples where they say, yeah, we have this in all the Scandinavian languages, but when we really look at it, it's maybe only the headline that is translated, and that is not going to fly in the future. And again, think about the audience that are going to be the decision makers making decisions here. So we know from experience that this is simply not. It can get better, so to speak, and the company who starts this are going to benefit, of course, from this. I have a good example from a small Swedish company selling nuts and bolts. They invested like 2% of annual revenue to be the leader in digital for their industry. I think that they succeeded. And a fun story around that, before launch, it was by mistake, it was accessible from Google. So all of a sudden they got a big request from nowhere. And this was before the page actually was launched. But that indicated the lack of product information in this space. All of a sudden they can see images, and of course they placed an order because they thought they could. They were not really there yet, but it indicated that this is the right way to go forward, that we need to do mainly what the B2C market does, even though they're not selling directly to customers. So this is an interesting takeaway for me, at least. So there are a bunch of other things here, but you will be able to download the full report after this, of course. But it tells us basically that there's a lot of job needs to be done in the B2B market. All right. You can change, or can I do it myself maybe?
Yes, I can change. Here you
Yeah,
go.
thank you. So what elements of the B2C customer experience had the most impact on the B2B marketing strategy? And I think what is interesting here is that we see that content marketing, more information around your product to make it filterable, to make it searchable, and all that. So you see that content marketing is the one that they believe that will have the most impact for the marketing strategy in the future. And I guess that this is something that is not maybe a shock to anyone. Of course, there needs to be more information. And particularly since doing Magento projects, the ability to be able to filter on different specification is a key thing, because you need to find what you need in terms of and in regards of what you need to do, and then by structuring and ordering the data to be able to output that in a way that makes it easy for the client to find the solution to the problem that he or she has. That's really crucial. And I think that this is something that we have seen in the B2C industry. It was in the beginning there was just image has always been important, of course. But as we go along, there is not a B2C company that hasn't organized their data to be able to make those filters and selectors and stuff like that. So get the content in order, structure it, enrich it. That is going to be key for any digital investment that you're going to make. Influencer marketing, I'm just going to mention that also. This is something that we take away from the B2B industry, and may be hard to translate into B2B, where you actually give the possibility to make to say something about the product from a consumer perspective. I think that this might be something that B2B companies, being in more complex normally products, are a little bit hesitant to do. But again, I think that your clients or your consumers would be people that are distributors, and if they would have something positive to say, I think that would be beneficial for you. Would there be anything negative, then you let's say for a manufacturer maybe that doesn't really have they're not in front of the user customers as often, so they don't get that feedback instantly sometimes. I'm talking about specific times here, but this is a good way to actually get feedback, what was good and what was bad, and to take that into consideration into next manufacturing batch or similar. To get that feedback may be also interesting for B2B and especially for a manufacturer. All right, thanks. Now you can switch. All right. What area did you face the most difficulty in? And it's not a surprise that system integrations is the biggest problem normally, because all of a sudden there are new systems that are going to be in the ecosystem, and it's obvious to everybody that these system needs to communicate, because otherwise you create even more workload on your employees. So definitely the systems need to talk to each other in a good way. And this is also from experience. We've learned the hard way that it's not super simple to actually connect all the systems and all the different things that are going on. And therefore we spend a lot of hours to make sure that the platforms that we work with work seamlessly and can connect to each other. So this is really crucial. In whatever SI you choose, you should make sure that they have good integration engines to make sure that the data flows seamlessly from the ERP into the PIM, and from the PIM onto the e-commerce site, or whatever it may be. It may be also other systems, of course, but system integration is something really, really important that you need to think of and need to discuss with anybody who should integrate for you. B2B specific functionality. This is something that we at Vaimo started out in Magenta 1, which was not so B2B friendly, but most of that was taken care of in the Magenta 2, where we have a lot of more out of the box functionality to handle the things that B2B clients are looking for. The rest of them, of course, budget is always interesting. How can we actually get return on investment? And I'm going to get back to that in a short while. But that is also something that we saw that they had difficulties in. Change management is actually 6%, but it's this is also a crucial thing, because with new system comes new processes, and you got to get ready for that. And I think we also will get back to that. I would say that this might be a little bit low from my experience, at least, because this is also a crucial thing. We can build the best e-commerce shop, but if there is not people behind it to handle that, it would never hit the targets that we've set out. So change management, and to get everybody to understand what the functionality is within the new process is really, really crucial. All right. I thought I mentioned also the threat of Amazon. I don't know how you feel about this, but definitely we see that this is a disruption, at least you can say. So here we can see that 10% of the respondents said it was essential. We need to adapt to survive even. And 35% says it's a major challenge, and that we need to be more competitive. And I think if we look at the US market, Vaimo US market, we see that this is definitely more mature here. And in a lot of cases, syndication to these marketplaces is maybe even more crucial than the actual e-commerce side. You have to be on Amazon. There is studies that says that 55% of the searches starts on Amazon when it comes to buying stuff. So you need to be there in one or the other way. A minor disruption. These things are changing, but we offer value which can't be undercut by marketplaces. And this may be true also, because this is the upside here, because Amazon will never have all the solid product information that you will have on your own. And especially the more complex the products are, of course, they will have to turn to you to actually get the full picture of the product. But it is definitely something to bear in mind when you are kind of outlining that strategy. And it depends, of course, on your products today, what you sell. But definitely it should be discussed in either way. And you should come to some kind of decision that this is not needed or this is needed, and the reason therefore. So it should be in all of the discovery reports that you do. You should address this at least, I think, because it is going to change, and we see the change coming over to Europe as well in big style. So it is something to definitely consider. And to me, I have another example, a major US player, which have identified that they sold 67% to 3 major distributors, among those Target and Walmart, I think. And they realized that if we lose some of them by having a bad digital strategy, we risk to lose billions in turnover. So there, it wasn't that hard to understand that we need to do something. And they definitely needed to do syndications. And here, InRiver, for example, has a super interesting tool to do that syndication right out of InRiver, which means that you can syndicate any data stream that is in your data model to whatever endpoint you want to, basically. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Jesper, or if we should.
Yeah, we've seen a huge uptake in the interest of our syndication app over last year. We launched it with some proof of concept customers about a year ago, and now it's available in the market since a couple of months back, and we foremost in the US, but also in Germany, UK, and the Benelux markets. And if you're going online again, you're coming back to, then you will face the competition of Amazon and the other big marketplaces that are out there. So as soon as you go digital, you should think about the competition you have out there in the new markets, and you will most likely have Amazon or other specialists marketplaces as competitors out there.
Yeah. Vaimo also has teamed up with Products Up, which is a syndication engine. And I think also that InRiver has some kind of cooperation with them. But this is a cutting edge syndication engine that has all you need to do those syndications. And I just want to mention here, I think that the key things about Amazon entering the marketplace is that it's going to be more transparent. It's going to be harder to hide away prices and stuff like that, because people expect to see prices, even if that's just a list price, and you understand that by contacting the company I can get discounts. But it's going to change the transparency. People are going to know. People are going to have an easier time finding competitors by Amazon entering the market. And I think also that they are getting used to a first-class customer experience with Amazon, because it's really easy to go on there and to buy products. So that's ups the standard a little bit. That's what we've seen. If you have a company that has, products on Amazon or such as that, they are used to having a pretty seamless experience when buying. All right, we're starting running out of time here, I think. But so last one here that I want to share with you, the hurdles which are preventing us from upgrading your e-commerce infrastructure. And what we can see here is really interesting. That is lack of buy-in from decision makers. This means that C-level is normally more attracted to short-term ROI, which means that they tend to go for faster things, whereas the digitalization process and to get a new e-commerce up there, to get a PIM in there, are things that they have to see more like an investment, and maybe to even stay within the game, so to speak. So the store needs to be upgraded. You need to go online and you need to take that investment. And from what we can see, it's better to do it fast, do it now, and maybe not to sink everything into there, but to get that process starting is really, really crucial. So 30% actually is lack of buy-in from decision makers. I think that we are going to see some casualties from this. So you probably should not sit completely still. You should at least initiate some kind of discovery to get the understanding of where are my competitors, where are we, what are our vision going forward, and stuff like that. So this should be addressed definitely, so you don't miss out and come 5 years and realize that now we have to do a lot of investment. It's better to start now and to take it in chunks.
So that's a good conclusions of your findings, and if we conclude our findings, from the content and commerce, we see some similarities. I mean, what the customers wants to and what the respondents wants to create is a frictionless experience, actually moving from different channels where you have inconsistency of data, etc., to a more frictionless experience where you support it with the same data across the different channels. And we should also realize that a lot of the purchases today are web influenced. So even if you provide the information within your e-commerce site, etc., that could facilitate the person-to-person buying process that still happens and there's still the dominant channels within many channels and markets. The customer perspective and to really take it and set the standards from the customer perspective. The customers are also individuals that are shopping on a personal basis in fantastic solutions like Amazon and other channels. And that sets the requirements. And you need to be very relevant to a buyer. And that's more specific to business buyers than it's from business to consumer. You have to be very specific because your buyers are experts on your products. So that merchandising that you need to be very precise and need to be relevant for your customers. Engineering manufacturing companies really needs to put themselves on the shoes of the customers and the frontline sales reps. And that means that you have to support your sales reps and your retailers, your distributors out there in the market. So that e-commerce and that PIM solution can support that buying process and that selling process. And that's actually one of the comments we got here, that one of the key showstoppers for one of the participants here in launching a B2B has been the B2B invoicing process here, that legislation stops. And that's why e-commerce and the digital channels must be supportive to the existing process of selling through distributors and selling through local agents, etc. And that's very much the reasons why you have these middle hands and distributors and agents. And thus the digital channels must support these kinds of sales process within the business world. And the royal brass here is actually brass and hose. It's actually a really good example of our US customers of us that they really are working to support their existing frontline sales reps with their e-commerce channels rather than actually replacing it. There are also some contradictions and challenges. So if you look at some of the challenges and some of the opportunities that the respondents actually raised in the surveys, we could see that there's a huge demand and that the content across channels should be synchronized. But at the same time, we see that when they actually go through different channels, we need to be very precise with the context. For example, to be able to provide local images, etc. So this is really when you need to use the new technology to speed up the content production, but also actually to be able to distribute the right content for the right markets, for the right customers. So if you're launching an e-commerce site, of course, you should try to get to know your customers, what regions they're in, to provide relevant resources and relevant information for products for that market. So the content across channels and the customer content is a contradiction, because you actually then need to provide more local content and then you need to really work on how to create all these versions of content for the different markets in an efficient way. The system and channel integrations. You stated in the respondent stated here very clearly in the Vaimo study that the system integration is one of the key areas. At the same time, you want to support and you want to be very unique, because the uniqueness of business-to-business products is extremely important. And that, so you want to be unique in the way that you present your products, because you often develop and put a lot of efforts in developing unique functions. At the same time, you want to have standardized integrations. So what we need to work on, both from a system provider perspective and also from a system implementation perspective, is to get as much as done as possible from a standard point of view, but still leave the opportunity for you to customize. So think about the Pareto rule. When you search for adapters, connectors to facilitate, you should make sure that also these standard connectors can be customized, because there are many business-to-business customers of us that would like to have very specific market models and very specific features of the product highlighted, and that cannot be accommodated in a standard connector. So to realize that a connector and a ready-made adapter, that's maybe 80, maybe 90% of the work, but there should also be opportunities for customizations. And that's more important in the B2B world than in the B2C. Because there could be simply millions invested in very special features of some of the products. There is what we can see also in an organizational gap within B2B to sell and market online. Sales is very much a P2P business and it's local, versus e-commerce. E-commerce is central. This means that the e-commerce and digitalization initiatives is often driven by the central and the headquarters of your organizations. But then you have to realize that what is really useful is to get the knowledge of the local salespeople into your e-commerce and product content process here. So how to engage with your existing sales organization and get their insights and how they actually sell to the customers today. That is something that we often bump into where our clients are trying to replace an initiative here and trying to replace an existing process, instead of actually asking the local sales process, the local sales resources about their advice and how the sales process actually goes today and what the customers is asking for. The fourth contradiction here is very much about data quality and standardization. We, of course, and you as a customer often have a short time to market, but at the same time, we do see that there is a showstopper in many projects where there's a need that needs to be planned to update the quality of the data. And when it comes to standardization, you also have to realize that ETIM, GS1, all these standardization topics are great initiatives, but there are local versions of these, and you need to have a very local and pragmatic approach to these standardizations. What are the key markets where I work in and focus on, and what are the key industry databases where I need to connect? You cannot fulfill the requirements of the entire GS1 or the entire ETIM standards, but you have to focus on the subset of data within your standardization. That is different from different locals and different for different industries. So what to do if you're a B2B marketeer and we've been trying to set some steps ahead here. If we look at the challenges that the respondents outlined, and given our experiences working with a lot of B2B clients. Tommy, would like to share some of the...
Yeah, definitely. And I realized that we are short or almost out of time, I guess, but I will be brief. I would say that to simplify it, return on investment based approach will get you started. This means that you should address the largest pain points, but also that you should probably invest in something new if you don't feel that the platform that you're on are going to take you forward. And then when I say forward, I mean 5 to 10 years even. So you need to get onto something. I've seen examples where they have major companies rely on somebody that is getting a little bit old and is really needed to do any changes to the system, and that won't simply do. You need to be on a platform which has an ecosystem which is constantly developed. So that is a must. And I think also that they should understand your digital maturity and define your digital vision. And therefore, Vaimo has a separate team, a strategy team that can go in and with a short number of hours, they will ask a bunch of questions to make sure that they put you in the right bracket, and then help you define that digital vision going forward with all the experience that we have. So I would say that this is something that we try to do with all the companies that we come in contact with, to make sure that we do not do too much in the beginning. So set that digital vision with a strategy team of some kind. Launch fast, land and expand. This means that we see that the most successful deliveries are when we are doing like 9-month projects initially, not more than that, to make sure that everybody in the company understands where we're going, not to try to do everything at once, focus on the essentials. However, it is important to get it right because, as I mentioned before, normally B2B companies have fewer customers with higher turnover, higher retention. So you should worry not to do a bad experience. Make sure that you have everything you need. We have many times interviewed the key clients to our customers, so to speak, to make sure to bring them on board. What do they need? What do they expect from a new digital strategy? And to involve them in that process. And we've done that successfully. Build competence and develop solution continuously. Yeah, there is probably not an end to this. It's just constantly being upgraded. But you should stand on solid ground, meaning that you should. The Vaimo thinking is to go best of breed platforms, to make sure that you have the best of breed platforms and make sure that they interact in a good way. And thereon in, it will be upgrades, of course, to these platforms, but at least you will be standing on solid ground going forward. So in your budget, you should definitely make room for improvements over the years. But that major investment to go to something that is cutting edge on the market is really important. And I think the last one here, it will require change, and I can go into detail with that, but it will require change to make sure that you have everybody on board. It's our job to educate the people that are going to work. Would it be a new Magenta 2 Vaimo implementation? We will help you, of course, but this is really crucial that the guys and the girls who's going to work with this really know what to do and really feel that this is our own platform, and they can see the return of their investment in terms of the work that they are doing. And so they understand also the digital strategy and why we're doing this. This is something of the key things that we see from experience. Is really crucial to have that successful digital journey. All right, I don't think I will end there because we're way out of time.
So we have some questions. Thank you, Tommy, for summarizing these tips and tricks going forward here. We have some questions here from one of the audience is asking, what is the current status of automation tools used in PIM for B2B type products, which are more details in terms of product information and have less structured data online, for example, fashion? I think there's a numerous of different examples within the PIM solutions. There are a lot of functionality to automatically add different attributes, etc., for different products, and automatically create links in between products based on rules and attributes within the PIM. There is also product description for less engaging products as soon as you add certain attributes and images with tags, for example. There are AI applications that actually can create product descriptions on the fly. That is what we've seen some of our customers implemented already. There is also a question about AI for configurators for sales and complex products. I haven't really seen AI within configurators yet, but there's a lot of configurators out there supporting the B2B, where the PIM solution often serves as a sort of a rule engine, and where that configurator is often sort of a wizard, where you select a certain need, where you have a certain issue, where you're directed into certain product categories, and then you select your local markets, your local conditions, etc., and are guided towards the right version of that product.
I can comment on that one. Yeah. Also, having a former work life in driving CAD files from Excel data, where we had to do a lot of job in enriching that initial data. And actually, what you can do within the PIM system is that you can sorry for that. You can actually derive all of the variation within a nomenclature, and then I haven't really seen IA either. But what you can do by outlining everything like that, you can let the user type in the requirements that they have, and then the PIM system will actually find the optimal solution for that. And of course, there is stuff to be done, and you can have solvers, mathematically solvers, to calculate what the right product for the input that the client has. But the key thing is, with a PIM system, we are able to derive all the different variations of that based on a nomenclature. So if there is a nomenclature, we should be able to create a configurator where you can type in your requirements, and the system should give you the optimal solution.
Definitely, and there are chatbot applications that, for example, are can also be used as guiding tools here. We also had a comment here on the invoicing aspect, and I think I commented on that before, that the legislation for invoicing from in between different markets are complex, and that's why we also have to realize that there might be some limitations in the global e-commerce space still, and that your e-commerce solution also needs to support the existing sales channels with agents, retailers, etc.
I would like to comment on that also, because this is something that we are facing a lot of times. And if you would send me an email, I will cross-connect you with our head of strategy, Henrik, and he will definitely have some comments on that to help you pointing to the right direction. So email me, and I will cross-connect you with Henrik at Vaimo.
And we've seen also here a comment that a successful PIM implementation is that % product managers will love to control their product portfolio lifecycle. And you're absolutely right here. We do see more and more customers that actually start and give birth to the product in the PIM, and then export the data to have a faster time to market. that mean that they export this product data to the ERP and to the front-end channel, rather than actually starting the process in the ERP and then starting to enrich the products once they are sellable. So especially in the B2B space, where you have long development cycles of the product, that you actually start the enrichment phase and starting to produce the content alongside with the product development to shorten the time to market. So definitely we would like to support the product life cycle here.
Yeah, and there is also, in relation to the growing of Amazon, can you expand on the growing importance of showing prices to B2B customers? I think I can comment on that. What we're seeing is that the younger generation, and this is not me talking, it's actually studies who says this, they hesitate if you don't show them prices, and even should that be list prices, that would be better, as I think I mentioned, than before. And the whole Amazon thing, where you're used to see prices all of a sudden, so price becomes an attribute as important as the color of something. If you cannot see a price, then you will leave. And this is a legacy from B2C, definitely, but that is setting the standard for the future, basically. And I know that for industry product, there might be up to 80, 85, 90% discount if you actually contact the company. But I think that the crucial thing would be, by putting up a list price and getting that phone to ring, or that email to be sent asking for prices, is a win, basically. So what I mean by that is, but as Amazon are always showing the prices, I think that it would be necessary for you also to indicate prices, even if that should be list prices.
Yeah, and we also see a lot of B2B clients implementing CPQ as well, together with their applications in parallel with PIM, to support dynamic pricing towards the different clients.
Definitely.
So with that, we ran over a few minutes here to be able to respond to your questions. Hope that was okay. We would like to thank you very much for your time and participation in this. We have recorded these sessions, and we will send the recording to everyone that registered for the webinar. And you can also share with you and your colleagues the links for these reports, and where we shared some of the results from. And both these reports are available on the two websites on the links here. Thank you very much for your attention today. And thank you, Tommy, for hosting this together with me.
Yeah, thank you, Jesper. Thank guys for listening in. Take care. Bye-bye.